You're listening to Raising Anchor on 990 WBOB. Welcome to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey. Your home for news, analysis, and everything Rhode Island FC. Each week, they take you inside the locker room, inside the tactics, and inside the storyline shaping RIFC. Now, here's Matt and Jason.
Rhode Island FC take care of business, defeating Westchester SC 3-0 in Prinx Tire Cup action on the weekend. Jason, was this a result enough to restore the hopes of advancing further in this tournament, or does the journey still end here despite the success on the pitch? We're going to find out that and so much more. First and foremost, the chairs are restored in their rightful places. You're on this side of the window. I'm on this side of the window. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It was a great weekend. Great to see RIFC get a good victory there, and inching ever closer to the World Cup here. Just a few more days.
I'm so excited. We were at the Cape Verde send-off yesterday. I don't know that went off as well as I would have expected. I mean, the fans of the national team seemed excited just to see them. I probably would have coordinated that event a little different. You got to experience firsthand what island time really means. So I got to appreciate that from my side of things. But nevertheless, you're right. World Cup is here, so much so. Want to talk a couple details. Don't have any graphics tonight because we're still on island time in terms of production of the show. But there's a lot of watch parties, and a couple people have reached out asking where we are going, what are Rhode Island FC and Defiant 1636's watch parties. So going to kind of break these down because there's some things you should know if you want to be amongst your forever faithful or other soccer aficionados for some of these games. So first and foremost, we'll go over Rhode Island FC's official watch parties really quickly. They are all at the Guild. That doesn't surprise me at all. They're going to have a couple of their pub partner activations as well, like G Pub and a couple of the other bars. But for most of it, it's going to be Guild-based locations. It's the biggest setup. It's the best bang for their buck. And again, that partnership with owner Duffy, it just makes the most sense. So here's what we know. They will be having several watch parties. So Sunday, June 14th, they'll be for the Germany versus Curaçao games, as well as Netherlands versus Japan. Friday, June 19th, of course, USA versus Australia and Scotland versus Morocco. And then Saturday, June 27th, again, Panama versus England and Colombia versus Portugal. Now, you need to go to RhodeIslandFC.com and claim the free ticket access. This will be a ticketed event to get into the Guild. These tickets are free, but they know that they are going to be exceeding threshold for head count. So they want to understand who's coming, how many people are coming, and be able to turn people away that maybe thought they could just roll in and be first come, first serve. So go get those tickets for free. Jason, we saw that at the Cape Verde match. That was a free event, and we saw people who couldn't get in because there weren't any tickets left to be distributed. However, we also know that Centerville Bank Stadium was not officially sold out. There was plenty of space for more people to come in if they had wanted to.
Yeah, but that also probably was due to like the staffing on the night, right? They allotted for a certain amount of people. I don't know if there was a situation where too like people will claim free things and never exercise the right to actually attend these events. So I'd be curious what that conversion rate looked like. I hope that, considering how many people wanted to go, that people who got the tickets actually went. And, you know, when we think back to RFC's playoff runs, the Guild was packed to the bone. And that is just RFC. This is the World Cup now. We're going to have people visiting from out of town. You're going to have people maybe who aren't privy to RFC or just kind of don't care about it because they have allegiances to other teams, other leagues. And so it kind of makes sense that they're going to have to kind of watch this carefully so they don't get in trouble with the fire marshal again there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then so that's the Rhode Island FC official side of it. Now we're going to get into the Defiant side of what they've announced so far. So Rhode Island FC partnering with 3 separate locations for select watch parties. First and foremost, the American opening game against Paraguay on Friday, June 12th. That's a 9 p.m. game. That will also be at the Guild. So now you have a third game or fourth game, technically, of watch party at the Guild. Then Saturday in a game for Brazil against Morocco on June 13th. At 6 p.m., they're going to be at Trinity Brewhouse. There's a relationship going there where, you know, Trinity's reached out to Defiance. They want them there for that match. And then here's the conflicting one, which goes against what Rhode Island FC is doing. Defiance obviously partnering with Robin Front, and they're going to be doing the Germany versus Curacao game on Sunday, June 14th at the German American Cultural Society of Rhode Island. So you can't go wrong. You're going to watch that game with someone from Rhode Island if you choose either camp. I think we know we're going to be, and that's probably going to be with the Germans hanging out and doing German stuff. So really excited on that one. We've talked about other matches we want to go to. I think without burning out the spots or getting this too long in the tooth when it comes to the locations. I know we're going to go to Monica for a couple of matches. I know we're going to go to the PVD fan zone. I know we're going to explore like going to one of those Mexican bars downtown for the Mexico home opener. So is there any location that I'm missing that you've been studying? Like we got to go catch at least a match there?
No, I think a lot of it, like you said, sometimes will come down to who's actually playing. And it's like, is there a community there that we can just go like have a great time and support their team with them and watch the match? You know, I think I'll probably try and hit as many matches with other people as possible. Maybe one or two where just kind of like have to just stay home and watch it because there's no other option. But yeah, I think it should be fun. We're gonna be out in the town, try and meet as many different people and just enjoy the World Cup.
Yeah, so if you guys have recommendations, slide into the DMs, message us, do whatever it takes. We've heard about Continuos and Picos for the Cape Verde team games. I've heard about a couple places in Central Falls and the greater Pawtucket area for some Colombian matches. So if there's a place we need to be to watch a game amongst the people, please let us know. We'll be happy to make sure that we go and support because we do want to be to as many of these games as possible. But got to move on and start talking about the big news that happened on Friday. Producer Torn got this completely wrong because Logan Dorsey was not an X factor on this match, so much so that he was X'd off of this team. I've got some details that I can expand upon. I know a lot of people have been asking us all week. We've shared some things, but we have some more things we can unpack here. Do you want to start things off, or is there anything that you need to ask before we get into this?
Just like it kind of feels like it was out of left field. You know, like you said, it was funny that producer Tarn was like, oh yeah, it was hyping him up. And then of course, like he just often disappears. It's unfortunate to see him go, especially now that like we see that he's in another team in the league, and especially a team that we haven't played yet. So he could be used against us, which is not ideal. And
I think that will be the thing that we see the most, is he will be used against us in that August 29th match. Clay Holstead had some comments about it at the end of the game. Listen, this is a first for the club. We are no stranger when it comes to having loanees recalled. We've now seen it with, first and foremost, Jack Panayiotou famously getting recalled. We've seen it with Matthew Corcoran, where we didn't even understand that signing in the first place. It was only going to be a handful of games. And now we see Logan Dorsey. You know, there was a couple questions in the mailbag, like, do we need to protect Pity at all costs? I don't think that move is even financially viable to recall him at this point, because I'm not sure where he would be able to even make it make sense cost effectiveness wise to find another playing opportunity somewhere else. So I don't think Pity is at any risk. There's a lot more to unpack here with Logan Dorsey, though. And, you know, first and foremost, we have to talk about where Logan Dorsey is in his career. You know, he came off of being one of the most electric strikers out of MLS Next Pro last season. There were a lot of clubs that wanted to see Dorsey in their camps during the preseason, or maybe being a trialist, or even just signing outright on the championship and even USL 1 side of things. And you have to understand that there's a very good relationship between Minnesota United and Rhode Island FC. It's not just luck that we've had Morris Dugan, Hugo Bacharach, and now Logan Dorsey on a loan. There's a relationship between these technical staffs that has grown into something very, I think, successful when we look at all three of these players. But then when you look at Logan Dorsey specifically, it's pretty transparent as to why he's no longer with Rhode Island FC. Only gets 146 minutes across all of his playing opportunities, gets the first goal of the season. He's plastered all over RhodeIslandFC.com, or at least he was, for that first goal at home this year. 2 goals in that same time span. That's not a bad per 90 stat line, but, you know, here we are almost at the halfway point in the season, and only 146 minutes for a player who was playing in almost every match, almost the entirety of her match, scoring in the double digits last season in an MLS Next Pro side. You start to have to ask questions, whether you're Minnesota United, you're Logan Dorsey yourself, on like, what exactly is this going to be for me, especially if Minnesota is looking at him as being the next guy, possibly being a secondary or tertiary striker for the senior team sooner than later. these questions all start to kind of percolate to the top and say like, hey, what's really going on with Logan? Why isn't he playing?
Yeah, and then what's crazy is you brought up a few other players there. Like if you compare him to a Matthew Corcoran, who was here for what, 4 or 5 games, he put up more minutes than Logan Dorsey did. So it does make you wonder, like, what was going on behind there. Was it he just wasn't fitting? Like, what was Kano's vision for the team? Why wasn't he getting enough minutes? I mean, at this point, it's all speculation. But clearly, they were not happy, and they, like you said, they see him as someone who needs that development time. And Tulsa, from what I understand, needs a striker, so he's probably going to get quite a few minutes there. Just from a curiosity point, I'll kind of be like half paying attention to see like, okay, how is he doing? Are we going to like look back on that and regret that? Is he going to have a good rest of the season? Or is this going to be one of those things he comes out the other side of it with 3 goals from like, 900 minutes? So like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate we did keep him, but maybe really not a big loss on our side.
I mean, so from the conversations I've had with both sides, the only person I haven't talked to is Logan himself. Ironically, he was next on our interview list. So I feel like I got to start going after the loanies faster. The same thing happened with Jack. I got Jack last time, but I got to pay attention to this in the future. But so from what I've heard from both camps, it's twofold. Is one, yes, Minnesota wanted to see Logan be playing more, but obviously there's no rules written to the contract that if they're not at X minutes, then they get recalled. I've heard some things say that like the loan expired, which that was interesting. I haven't been able to confirm that either on whether these are set up in 6-month windows and then they're reevaluated so that both teams can analyze and say, hey, we're going to recall him at this point. We're at that maturation date. But what is the thing I know for sure is that this was not a decision from Minnesota United. A lot of people, and maybe I misled people too, saying Minnesota wants to see Logan take the next step. This entire decision was activated by Logan Dorsey himself. So I want to make sure people understand that Logan chose and requested to be released from Rhode Island FC to then go play somewhere else. Now, clearly with the level of speed and expediting that this happened in both the recall of the loan and then the signing of FC Tulsa, this was probably something that was being negotiated as soon as Logan felt uncomfortable. And we'll hear some things from both Kano and Clay a little later that kind of match that up. But from what I've been told directly from my sources is that Logan he felt that he needed to get more playing time. He needed to be more productive, and he needed to use this year to catapult himself. It wasn't a decision he came easily to. He did not want to leave Rhode Island FC, but I think all parties understood where he was at and said, okay, Logan's got to do what's best for Logan, and unfortunately, that means his time with Rhode Island FC comes to a rather, albeit short end, unfortunately. Is that something that you say, like, you're a little surprised in when you see strikers wanting to get out? Because Jack Panayiotou was his own, like, that was not in his control. He would have never wanted to leave at that point just for a one Leagues Cup match. And Matthew Corcoran, I think he was just doing everything he could to get minutes so that he could make a senior team claim by the time they got to playoffs, which he did, especially in that Open Cup run. This one feels like the first time ever where, hey, I'm choosing not to stay with you, Rhode Island. I'm breaking up with you. Does that change how you feel about a player when they do that?
No, I think you have to respect it, right? A lot of these players do not have long careers. And if you feel you're in a position where you are not getting the time to showcase or develop your talents, waiting another 6 months to a year, that's a long time in regards to a soccer player's career. So I kind of understand it if he felt that he needed to move on to develop his game. It's unfortunate. Like I said, if it turns out that he comes good, then maybe we'll look back on that and think, I don't know, maybe could we have done better there? Could be a lesson for us, but yeah, I can't hate him for it.
I think the two interesting things for fans to watch in Logan's career now, progression-wise with FC Tulsa. Remember, John Morrissey said one of his biggest, got it wrong or surprises of the year in player pool was the fact that Philip Goodrum was not really being activated at FC Tulsa. So now with his time there, would that transform into more productivity? And I look at Goodrum as a similar player profile to Williams. We kept asking, could we put two brute force strikers in at the same time in a double strike force pairing? If we see Logan play alongside Goodrum, what would that mean for this team? And did we not take those notes? Because that's, I think, the most interesting part on will he be successful? And then, of course, how many goals is he going to score against us on August 29th?
I mean, hopefully none. But the way we're cursed, I mean, yeah, he'll probably at least pick up one.
Logan Dorsey chose to play on a baseball field instead of stay with Rhode Island FC. That's all I'm going to say. But hey, we got to get to break. And when we return, we're going to break down the table standings and Prinx Cup action, as well as how Kano constructed this team ahead of that match last weekend. All here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast, powered by Sprout Coworking. For all your business needs, large or small, visit sproutcoworking.com. Powering 990 WBOB, that's sproutcoworking.com.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right. With the win over Westchester there, RAFC were in second place in the group there until Sunday afternoon when Brooklyn kind of thrashed Portland Hearts of Pines there 5-1.
Something we can't do, apparently. Every other championship team, no problem getting through the Hearts of Pine.
Yeah. Not sure what happened there. We do play Brooklyn in the final round, so beating them can put us in a really good potential spot for second place. The thing we don't know is how Hartford will manage their last game, but they play Westchester, so I don't expect them to drop any points there. And the thing is, second place is just for the wild card. So we're currently not the best wild card moving forward. So we definitely have to hope that some other dominoes fall in our place. So still work to do, but it's unfortunately really not in our hands there.
So mathematically, though, what you're saying, if I interpreted that right, is that should Rhode Island FC win and Hartford lose and Brooklyn lose, you obviously they would if we win. You're saying there's a chance.
Oh yeah, there is a chance. Maybe Westchester pulls out a generational performance. Connor McGlynn, turns into like prime Daniele De Rossi from Roma and just, thrashes them somehow. Like, who knows?
Is there any way where we're allowed to legally loan players down to Westchester for that game? I mean, USL has some weird rules. I mean, Westchester has I heard on last week's show when I was absent, they have their goalkeeper coach activated as their backup keeper right now. How, do we need to have
a 1-day contract for JJ just to dunk on them or something?
How do we help Westchester help us at this point? But looking at it though, too, even if we were to win and they were to lose in a draw based on the goal differential alone, not only do we then have to beat Brooklyn, we would also have to mathematically do it by a factor of what we are down +3.
We're +2, they're +5. So
we need at least 3 goals without Brooklyn responding, and it would need to be a 0-0 where they lose in pens to Westchester. That's the minimum floor, or they lose outright and we win and it doesn't matter.
So it's possible, but a lot of things have to go our way there.
That is tough. You don't like to see it, and like you said, there's so many other teams that are already at 6 points or more with, again, similar opponents in their competitions remaining, that the wild card is really out of our reach. So a lot of things have to go really right for this now. It sucks to see. I have one question that I want to advocate for, and I think this needs to be something that's changed at the USL HQ level moving forward. I feel like that one of the things that did not go well for us in this is that both of our first rounds of the tournament were away matches. And I feel like that teams need to be given every opportunity to not fall so far behind in the point standings that they need an away, a home, away, a home, or a home away, a home away. Like I really feel for the sanctity of this tournament that that's something that should have to happen. I also think that if you're going to mix things up, it could possibly still be championship side, then a USL 1 side, then championship side. I think there needs to be a little bit better schedule regiment on this. Do you think I'm crazy for saying that? Or because, I mean, our first game, imagine the momentum that this would have built if this had been our opening salvo in the Prinx Tire Cup.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy there. I mean, the benefit of having 2 away is then now we have 2 at home, right? So if we could have mustered a little bit better of a performance, then maybe we'd be in a really good position. The problem is with only 4 matches, you really don't have any room to slip up. especially because there's numerous teams in each group where they're not all playing each other. So it's not really an even playing field. So some of it is just unfortunately just kind of a dice roll. I think as the league continues to expand, we grow more teams, maybe they will continue to look at this competition. And there's some things they can do to maybe even actually expand the amount of groups, right? And just have smaller groups and become a little even more regional and just say, hey, these are the 4 teams in this group. Everyone plays each other, one's home, one away or something. And then we'll move on from there into like some sort of bracket. But at this point, like I can't hate it. I think we kind of got a little bit of a favorable draw last year, and this time maybe not so much, but we also kind of shot ourselves in the foot there too.
I know this is like not the point of this conversation, but one of the things that irks me the most is that I just don't believe that we needed this tournament yet. I feel like with the amount of teams that are in each of the USL 1 and the championship, I think this could have been a tournament that lived in USL 1 for a little bit longer, because they only have 17 teams in USL 1. With championship at 25, I still much would have rather seen us play every opponent in both the Eastern and Western Conference and get to this when the teams kind of more spread themselves out evenly when Premier activates. I still don't really like, because now mathematically it's possible.
I hear what you're saying, but I think part of this is to like, they're trying to mirror European soccer more, right? So you have a tournament that is just your divisions, your teams. Throw in the top on the fact that Open Cup it's still alive, but it feels like it's, MLS is trying to ignore it like it's not that important of a thing. Who knows what that'll look like in a few more years, if that competition will even like still exist. I hope it does.
It will.
But at that point, I think USL was trying to get ahead of the fact that like they're trying to bring like more notoriety to their own league and like, look, we have our own competitions. If you don't want to do the Open Cup, like, we're going to just do our own thing.
Or when Birmingham Legion doesn't even qualify for the Open Cup. We go that route. But listen, we got to move on. It's just an observation. Let's get forward. So how did Kano set up for this? Because I think he fielded probably the best possible starting lineup. We had questions ahead of this. Would he do that, or would he go a different direction? And I think he got this one right.
Yeah, he fielded a very strong lineup here with Koke Vegas in net here. Back for Nick Scardina, Karifa Yao, Frank Nodarce, and Aldair Sanchez. We saw a return of Nodarce there, kind of in a center back role. Holding midfielders there of Clay Holstad and Ugo Bacharach, with your attacking midfielders of Noah Fuson, Amos Shapiro-Thompson, Augustine Rodriguez, and JJ Williams up top. Kano definitely showing that he's taking this very seriously, pulling no punches. I mean, they kind of had to. If they did not win, there's no opportunity at all for them to advance.
Right. No, I mean, and, we're going to talk about a couple of things really quickly here. Good to see Jamin Peters back in the rotation. Obviously, now someone's got to fill in for striker number 3 or 2 on the night with Logan Dorsey now gone. Leo Afonso, I'm not sure if he was relegated to the secondary role because there was a lack of striker output. That'll be something we're going to have to watch, because historically we've seen Afonso get on the starting 11. He gets a goal in this game, so that'll be something to watch. I want to ask, though, beyond the fact that Jamin Peters and, of course, the legendary Kevin Vang get into their USL Cup debuts, want to ask about Pity Rodriguez out on the left wing. We've seen him float there. We've seen him combine with Afonso or even Quizera when he goes over there. How do we feel more with Rodriguez pushed out wide versus being tucked in centrally in a more distribution and chance creation role?
I thought he had another good match there. We saw him play out there out wide against Indy. Very much a little too late there, kind of to salvage anything from that match. But he was definitely creating some attacking opportunities, whipping in some crosses there. So I don't hate it as long as the team continues to perform well and pick up points.
I agree completely on that. The other question, we saw this, we were discussing on the Discord with some people earlier in the week. We were talking about, will Danny Rivera ever see the light of day on this team again? Didn't see him in this match in that capacity.
I hope they let him outside.
That being said, though, we're definitely a back 4 now, and I had mentioned how it's unfortunate to not be able to see a player like Frank Nodarce find his way into this team, because he's not going to unthrone Karifa Yao. He's not going to unthrown Amity Diop when he's, looking good. I do think, and I still continue to believe that he's a better defender right now than Grant Stoneman. So it's good to see right back two in left center back two's positioning now on the weekend. He looked comfortable. He looked good in that role. Is there a case to be made that he should be considered? I mean, maybe Hamidy's probably going to slot right back in as soon as we get his timetables on his health. But is there a reason that we should think that we see rotation between him and Stoneman for competing over that spot until Amity returns?
I mean, I think it would be Frank's position at this point to kind of fight for. Stoneman obviously still has some qualities, I think, that he can bring to this team. But I think more often than not, you'll see him like in that tertiary kind of rotational role. Maybe if we were in a better position in this match, you would have seen him play, right? Because we wouldn't have, this is one of those lineups where we're not taking a chance. We have to win this. So I'm putting out the best possible lineup I can. But you would think against a, USL 1 team that he can hold down the fort there perfectly fine.
Yeah, I did remember someone reached out and said, I didn't realize Kevin Vang was a right back because he was swapping in for Nick Scardina in the substitution. And listen, all that matters is that is that it's not Danny Rivera making those plays. And something needs to be fixed about that. That still boggles my mind. Really quickly, who were your heroes? Who were your zeros on this roster?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Noah Fuson as my hero. He put up a really strong performance. Didn't get any numbers in terms of goals or assists there, but I think that if he continues playing the way that he does, he's going to pick some up, and it's just good to kind of see him playing with a little bit more confidence than last year. With the commanding performance the way that we did, it's hard to I can't really pick a player as a zero, especially if you statistically look at all of them. They all were fantastic. 7:30 match time, maybe that's a zero. We got rained on at the end of the night. They had to push up the fireworks right away after the match because the rain was going to happen. If the game started a little earlier, maybe that wouldn't have happened. I don't know. It feels a bit late.
So. I have heard, unconfirmed, but I have heard through multiple people that have the ability to influence this in next year's calendars that there will never be a 7:30 match again. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard from several sources that it is something that the club is taking a deep look at, and that they will probably never see the light of day again.
Those are meant for Tuesday, Wednesday games where it's midweek and it's Open Cup or something, right? Give people
you
a little
could even
bit
argue the heat of summer. It's at the apex of it. I could see it then too.
Yeah.
But not when there's still rain prevalent or it's still you're fighting for 50-degree temperatures. Those are 4 p.m. games. Let the kids come out and play because it was kids' night too, especially. All right. Well, my hero was Aldair Sanchez. He gets an assist. He continues to show really how much he has cemented that left back, originally left wing back role. I don't think there was. I think there was a moment from last year, even through now, where it was could you interchange this with any other player? Jojea, he was fighting for that role amongst Jojea. Now with him on the right side of things often, I just don't think there's another player that could unsettle Aldair. Aldair Sanchez would have to get in his own way to unsettle himself and not be a starter on this squad. You said it's hard to find a zero. I think that's right. I'm going with Zach Harivo. He doesn't deserve it, but I'm not going to be like you and not name a player. I think Zach Harivo had the weakest showing on the night, especially as a substitute only. Didn't feel like he did much to change the game. In fact, it felt like Rhode Island was a little bit sloppier once he came in. The rhythm just seemed a little off. It took a while for him to grow into it, but by no means does he deserve a zero. But I've got to give it to one player, and I'm not afraid, unlike you, to hurt some feelings along the way. But we got to go to our break, and when we return, we're going to talk to Kano as well as Clay on their opinions on the match, and then break down some of the biggest moments from weekend's result. It's all here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Fans, as the weather becomes more and more unpredictable, be sure to check out 990 WBOB's weather page for all your temperature, storm, and travel info. Stay prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store with the 990 WBOB weather page.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, back here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. We're going to start things off with Coach Kano and his thoughts after the match. We've heard a lot of feedback about people not being able to hear the interview questions, so I'm going to break these down for the first time ever. So we're going to do this a little bit differently tonight, and this is a first run, so we ask everyone to bear with us in case we get this completely wrong. But here's Coach Cano on recapping the match overall.
So much more from the team. I think we can be so much more clinical. So much dominance in the game and territory. They made it difficult for us in the first half. They put so many numbers behind the ball. It's difficult to break them down. But I still think we have players that are good enough to be able to break that down. So, yeah, obviously happy we won at home on Kids Night and send everybody home happy. But so much more we can be better at.
So that's Cano. It's weird. I ran into producer Torin at the match. We actually had a 10-minute conversation, and this is the truth, about the inability of this team to break down the low block and find scoring opportunities, scoring lanes, getting that momentum. It's interesting to hear Cano say, despite a very commanding win, didn't really give any flowers other than it was Kids Night and that they got the win. More frustrating that, and we've seen this all season, Jason, that when teams start to turtle against us and get more compact defensively, that it suddenly becomes a lot more difficult for Rhode Island to find the back of the net.
And a lot of that has to do with the way that this team plays, right? That they're direct. They like to go on the wings. They send in crosses. When you think about like, how do you break down a low block? Well, you want tricky players who can kind of find those intricate passes to cut lines and create opportunities. And I just look at the squad and I don't see anyone with any sort of resemblance to that, with the exception of maybe, is that what we thought Pitti was? Or is Pitti more like, a traditional type of like winger? It's hard to say this early into his career with RAFC. He hasn't really shown us that he can break down those low blocks yet. So I don't think maybe that's not something he has in his wheelhouse.
I think that's a little bit of it. I also think, though, that at times when, and this happens a lot to any team that faces a low block, we even saw this with Arsenal and PSG in the Champions League final, that to me, it's always that when they recycle the ball and they bring it to the top of the box, it seems very static. There's not players trying to screen lanes. There's not players trying to create and draw defenders away. It's very much, what is the positioning of the player on the outside looking in, trying to do? Does it become a lob? Is it an overload on the wing to kind of create and force the change in direction that attack's going to come from? A lot of the times, though, I see Rhode Island FC players, when they get to that moment in time, they just kind of stand there and go, we're going to wait to see what you do with the ball, Noah Fuson, or what you do with the ball, Aldair Sanchez. And I think that's why we do see a lot of crossing be a result, because that's one of the best ways to break a low block, is like, okay, we're going to throw something in the mixer. And if JJ can get the vertical that he got in this game, where he had like a 10-foot jump to head that ball in, like, okay, then that's what it's going to be. So I think that is part of Cano's planning, but it is still frustrating to see this team not find the ability to carve through a team, even when they are in that low block. I don't know which team is the best, Jason, in the championship at breaking down the low block. I'd love to find out and then just start watching. It may be Tampa. It probably is Tampa at this point, but nevertheless, frustrating for Cano. Here's what he had to say about his roster selection. I asked him, historically, we've seen an Open Cup, and especially these types of Prinx Jägermeister Cups against USL 1 sides, we've seen across the league a little bit of experimentation, and this is what he had to say on it from his side.
I don't know if I agree if I experiment in cup games. I'd certainly try to give players minutes that deserve minutes, but my thought process and our thought process is always to put a team on the field to win the game. I'll never put a team on the field that I don't think can win a game. Our number one goalkeeper, we're trying to win the game, so you have to earn the right to play.
I forgot to mention, I also asked in that question why we haven't seen a goalkeeper outside of Koke Vegas. Cano making it very clear and transparent. Koke is the number one, and no one has earned that spot above him. Feels a little bit interesting considering how much we saw of Jackson Lee, and I don't think there would have been a single time that Cano would ever say that Jackson Lee was better than Koke Vegas, so that felt a bit disconnected from what we've seen in the past out of him. Maybe he just doesn't like the idea of us challenging him on wide. None of the backup keepers have seen minutes this season, but it sounds like then, despite whether it's Brooklyn or any other any other competition this year, though, unless Koke's not healthy or for some reason he slipped on the performance ladder, we probably won't see Castro or Meyer at all this season.
Yeah, I wonder if that final line there from him about like having to kind of earn the right to play. I wonder if that's. Do you think there's any sort of dig there to anybody? Does he feel that maybe some of the fringe players are not working hard enough to get themselves into the first team?
I don't think he does
Not
that.
so much as a dig, but more like a challenge. Like, hey, like show to me like why I should put you in.
I mean, look at Danny Rivera as a better example than Jacob Castro. Then Danny Rivera was a starting right back for the best defensive side in the Riverhounds 2 years ago. Injuries notwithstanding from last season, he's got to be better or as good as maybe not Nick Scardina, but one of the center backs that have been masquerading in that role at times. Like to me, like to not even make the 18-man roster for the match day. Like what is better look like? What Danny Rivera's situation reminds me very much of Galbi Alpes from year one at this point. Like it seems like if you're not doing what Kano wants you to do, that no matter how good your performances are, that it's just not going to get you on the roster. But with the keepers and like how much of a core they are, I don't know if this is a challenge to his players. It certainly feels like it's a challenge to us when we ask the question of saying, hey, like, why are these players not playing? Well, yeah, obviously we don't know the comings and goings of how good they are on game day, but like we would think that that's a moment to allow a player like Jacob Castro to show you what he can do. Now doesn't look necessarily like it. But at the same time, you can't argue with the man about wanting to get the results. It's Koke Vegas' 6th clean sheet now across all competitions. It's the 28th of his Rhode Island FC career. He's played every single minute of the season, something we didn't see in years 1 or 2. So, like, I'm not mad about it. I just kind of feel like I thought we would see Castro because that's been the example that's been set from previous seasons. That's all.
Yeah, no.
All right. So then next up, here's a question we asked him about the upcoming match against Loudoun as the last match before the World Cup break, and then also what the players would be able to experience for their downtime, considering there's a pretty large gap between the Loudoun and Orange County match.
They're close to us in the table. The table's close. We want to win the game. Possible, but yeah, the break will be nice. But everybody in the league, I guess, has a weekend off, but we have a bye, so that's why ours is longer. But yeah, we're trying to win the game. They have a 5-day mental health break that every team in the league has to submit, that you pick dates and it has to be league approved or union approved, and ours is 5 days.
So convenient that it's during the World Cup. Maybe they all get to experience them.
I think just about everybody in the league I think that's intentional, that they wanted to take some sort of break in the league through the World Cup, but ours just happens to be longer.
So that's Kano telling us basically that there is a bye week built in, which is why they have an extended gap. And then also there's the 5-week mandatory sabbatical for player mental well-being. It makes sense that they all chose it for the World Cup break period, but a bit surprised to hear that we also had another bye week strategically placed here. I'm going to have to look at the rest of the USL calendar. I thought everyone was on these larger scale breaks. Maybe that's something that we're going to have to go back and reflect on as teams will be. I know teams were playing through the corridor, but I didn't know it was going to be that necessarily close. So kudos to whoever wrote the schedule for Rhode Island FC to allow us to focus completely on the World Cup instead of our USL 1 side there. Any curiosities about that, or pretty straightforward?
No, I think that's pretty straightforward. It's cool that they're getting that opportunity, right? Like they're all fans of the game. So for them to kind of get to kind of enjoy that and not have to just constantly be working, like that's awesome for them.
Yep. And then here's Kano's final comments on Logan Dorsey being recalled to Minnesota United, and then of course signed to FC Tulsa.
Enjoy coaching Logan. We wish him the best. He left in the best possible way. I think it was a tough decision for him to go, but he obviously had conversations with his parent club and Tulsa, and ultimately he's Minnesota United's player, so that was the decision that was made. But yeah, he was a great guy to coach, and right up until the end, he left early yesterday morning, but he wanted to communicate to the guys, but he couldn't. He had an early flight, but yeah, we wish him well, except for I think it's August 29th when we play him. But yeah, he's a great kid and so coachable. so humble, just works hard. But I think it was going to be tough for him to get minutes, and I think he can get more there wherever that works out for him or not. Hopefully it does, but that was just simple as that.
Striker depth then, is it a wait and see now to see if you need a player to fill in the ranks of what the shoes that he's leaving behind, or do you feel like you have the talent on the roster to carry yourself through until maybe that moment comes a little later in the season to evaluate?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking to add everywhere. I think we have enough forward-thinking players. Like, I think Noah can play in the 9. I think Leo could play in the 9. There's some situations where Dwayne can play up there, Jamin. So I think we have enough in-house, and we won't just bring somebody in for the sake of bringing somebody in. But as I always say, every position's upgradable, so always trying to get better. Yeah.
So one, he again kind of reinforcing from the conversations I had separate from that about Logan Dorsey's decision to activate getting recalled. Not sure how FC Tulsa got into the mix on that one. That will be the curious thing. I think what you said earlier, it made sense based on their profile and lack of attacking menace that it's a good opportunity for Logan. Want to touch into, though, the need to replace him immediately. Right now, Kano thinks, and maybe there's something to it that, that's not necessarily something that he needs to even really consider, that there's enough depth in the 9th or the number 9 position, I should say, to kind of carry us through until he needs to take it seriously to evaluate if there's a player he can find out there to reinforce.
Yeah, I mean, Kano does love to kind of, take square pegs and make them fit into round holes, right? So we've seen, Clay play as a right wing back. We've seen multiple center backs play as full backs, play as midfielders. So absolutely, could we put Noah up top? Could we put Busy up top? Like, you can do all those type of options. The concern there is then, what does that drop off look like? Can we continue to get performances we need from them? And can we, sure, if we go up 2 or 3-0 in the first half, yeah, you can close the game out. Just throw someone up there to just kind of press and just work so that we can keep JJ rested and healthy. The problem is, and it's one thing for a keeper to play every game in the season. They're not running, like 10 miles a game like some of these other guys do. But do we get to a point where we run some of our players into the ground and we don't see that kind of late fall kind of late summer kind of early fall kind of run in where like our form really catches fire because we ran everyone into the ground? I think they will be looking for someone, but I think he's right. They're not just going to go pick up anyone. It's got to be someone that makes sense. But JJ will need some sort of backup there because unfortunately we just haven't seen it yet for him to stay healthy for a full season for us.
Yeah, lots of questions in the mailbag about who we should go out and get, but we'll save that for then. Want to now move into Clay, and this is going to be our extra time segment. So this is exclusive to our YouTube and our podcast channels. The radio group will not hear this. So let's get cracking on what Clay Holstead had to say about his goal on the night.
Technical. Did you see my first shot? I wasn't exactly close. I think the first one was in the parking lot. The second one was a bit better. I mean, it feels good. I think, like anything, it's just a confidence game. So seeing one go in is, I mean, it's always nice. It just kind of gives you the confidence to keep going, keep shooting, and know that you haven't quite lost it yet. So, no, I mean, it feels good. So, I mean, it was definitely after all the work we put in for the first 10, 15 minutes, finally having one drop was nice.
So that was me asking. I opened up the question with what's it feel like to finally score this season? And I meant to say Prinx Tire, but I didn't say that. And so he's like, what are you talking about? I've already scored a goal this season. I'm like, yeah, that was in league play. This is Prinx Tire. And so then he started talking about skying it. Listen, Clay has, and we talked, I also cut this out of the question part, but Clay, historically known for bangers, we've seen a different version of him this season now. He's been getting a little bit more close inside the box, closer to goal mouth, been doing some damage in different ways, not just that, taking one from 25 yards and letting it rip. Have we seen an evolution in his game, despite the fact, like he said, he skied one into the parking lot to begin the match?
Possibly. I mean, that could be somewhat of the direction of this team where they're trying to get touches into the box and trying to create slightly higher goal scoring, like opportunities in regards to, just, not taking shots from 35 yards out. We know that he can do those pretty well. He's usually good for a few of them a year, but those can be so few and far between that you give yourself a much better opportunity getting 6 yards out.
Yeah, that goal, by the way, his 10th of his Rhode Island FC career. He's now the 5th player to enter the double-digit goals club. So we got to get him his card for the card-carrying member now of Rhode Island FC. Here's Clay talking about now, despite the win, what the challenges that he's going to face in advancing in Prinx Cup look like.
I think it's one game at a time, as always. Unfortunately, how we started, it wasn't ideal. So from now on, we win. Just do what we can. At the bare minimum, it's going to be momentum games for us. So we go out there, just win the rest of them, and then, hope that fate's got us going in. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But we're going to use these games for improvements, statements, all of that. So, it's another game that we get to get better and we get to, entertain and show what we're going to do. So I think it's just go out there, do what we can, give everything we got, and then just hope for the best.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can look at this point, is that if the result doesn't necessarily impact your future because it's not within your control, you can still use this as momentum. There's a question here in a second about Loudon, and I'm really curious how that translates, especially against a side that we haven't ever seen success. Do you think a loss could have devastated this team then from a morale standpoint? Obviously it didn't happen, but to play devil's advocate for a second, if we say it's all about momentum and setting some standards for yourself, does that change anything?
Possibly. I think a loss would be pretty demoralizing for them. So for them to go out there and make a win, like you said, for statements, right? To say that, hey, sure, we are still here. Don't forget about us. We're, they can also, if anything, use these as a free swing, right? So that they can just keep kind of getting that more practice under the belt and kind of fine tuning some of their tactics and skills there.
And then here's Clay on running into former teammate Connor McGlynn out of Westchester.
Seeing Connor's awesome. I think everybody on the team loves him. It was, just a top tier guy. So, and I having him not start was definitely nice because it definitely minimized the amount of long balls we were gonna, those pings that he always hits. So that wasn't exactly the worst thing in the world. But no, it was great. So when he came on, he definitely made a difference too, which we could have had him off for another 30 minutes. That would have been nice. But no, it was great to see him. I think everybody here loves him. He's a great guy, great player.
So you asked earlier about, did Westchester, we talked about this, we didn't really bring it up in the show. Did Westchester play their best, strongest 11, or are they already in experimental phase, knowing that they have no hope of advancing? I don't know the roster well enough. I know you and Torin did the breakdown last week, but I was genuinely surprised that Connor McGlynn was not in this lineup to start the match, and he was a very late sub at that, especially concerning that Westchester was already down to begin with. So,
and neither was their best attacking threat this season in Guzan.
Yeah,
those two combined have been where they've been getting their goals, and to see neither of them start the game kind of felt like last year's Portland Hearts of Pine match, where didn't seem like Bobby Murphy wouldn't admit it, but kind of didn't feel like they were taking this match as serious. They thought, we're not in a good position. We're worried about the league. Let's just rotate some players. We'll sub some of the better ones in second half and just see what happens.
Yeah. And with 3 games with Westchester in the next 7 days, they desperately need to start recovering points in the USL 1 standings. That makes a lot of sense. And then here's Clay's final conversation about Loudon and taking on that opponent this upcoming weekend.
I think capitalizing, knowing that we have stuff to work on, but capitalizing on the positives. Just 3 goals in one night is great to see. And then like you said, working on stuff on the low block, but a win's a win. So USL League 1 or Championship, a win's a win. I think that we kind of dominated tonight, and that we showed that when we're playing and we're really clicking, that it doesn't really matter what team we're going to play, we're going to cause problems. And then just using that going into the next week, and just know that it doesn't really matter. We need to start stringing more than one game together. So instead of riding the roller coaster, string in a couple wins and a couple good performances.
So talked to Clay about that, and we talked about the low block, and that's something that they are continuing to work on. Also asked him about Logan. He said he's a good guy. It sucks to see him go. He's happy he won't get confused anymore for being Logan Dorsey from behind. So he's really excited about that. And the other thing he mentioned too, I said, what are you going to tell him when he comes back or when you go see him on August 29th? He said, why don't you just pass me the ball? Maybe you'll remember to pass me the ball instead of your new teammates, and I can score. And he also said, please don't score a couple goals against us. So even Clay subscribes to the idea that former Rhode Island FC players can do some damage to this squad. But speaking of the goals, speaking of the electricity on the night, 3 goals in this match, 2 coming in the first half. We've talked that this team's not a first half team when it comes to goals. Well, Clay Holstead says, hold my soccer ball here for a second. JJ also then goes right back into it. One, I want to talk about beyond the goals in the first half. I think I could not find the stat fast enough for the show, but I think this is the quickest succession of goals being scored in Rhode Island FC's short history.
I think it's pretty close. It was what, 3 minutes there?
3 minutes between each goal.
Yeah. So
like they didn't have enough time to reset the graphics to get ready for that second goal. That's how fast it came to it. JJ Williams, of course, now with his team leading 8th goal of the season across all competitions. It's his 13th. It's his 8th goal in 13 appearances. It's his 5th goal in 9 games. We talk about the consistency of keeping JJ red hot. I don't think he can get much hotter than that. And of course, now he leads the club with 27 goals all time in his record. We can talk about the Leo Afonso goal. I think it was great that he gets that goal he needed to continue to find the back of the net. He's been a little bit of streakiness in the season. It was good to see Aldair Sanchez, of course, with the assist. Did you have a favorite goal on the night?
I liked how Clay's happened from the, it wasn't maybe the most beautiful goal, but to like that's what you want to see from Kano's team, right? So pushing the team back, pressing them, winning the ball in a threatening position, immediately turning into attack. It kind of felt like the perfect example of this is exactly what he wants.
Yeah, there was 20 shots in the first half for Rhode Island. It was something insane. You look at the way they were able to recycle and contain and pin Westchester's back line. I thought in the first half before the goals came, because they came so close to almost the end of that first half, I thought the only thing Rhode Island FC was missing was that secondary or tertiary runner. They were putting the ball into space, but there just wasn't anyone there at that final moment. But again, they would continuously recycle the ball. They'd get that ball back and then go at it again and again. They were relentless. The goals just weren't coming. It felt like a reflection of the season where 20 shots is the macro for the entirety of the night, and then we get 2 goals out of it. It's one of those things that was very reminiscent. So I agree. I think JJ's header, when you get that high, you get that kind of verticality over a keeper, that's something to behold. Usually you just don't see that happen. Too often JJ is getting pushed around, held on to. When JJ is left like that, he can soar, and we saw that on the night. But we got to go to break for our final one, and we're going to get back to the regular show here. Don't go anywhere. When we return, it's the mailbag, all here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, here with the mailbag, Taras writes in, how did Logan Dorsey end up in Tulsa? I think we covered this.
Yeah, we pretty much covered it. Essentially, he wanted more minutes. They need a striker, so it just kind of worked out that way. I think they lost some of their gusto after making the finals last year, so they need to retool a bit there.
I hope he is not successful for Rhode Island FC reasons, but selfishly also I hope he finds success with that team.
Yeah, we've got 2 people asking basically the same question. So Ben S and Matt J both asking, with Dorsey gone, who are we bringing in, or who would you want to see get picked up?
So I think Kano said he's not just going to get a player for the sake of getting a player. I talked to a couple of the technical staff members on the weekend and said, you guys always have your ghost squads ready to go. The roster construction's never done. Do you already have player profiles? They said, absolutely. We can activate a player tomorrow if we needed it, 6 months down the road, or we could wait the entire season. They have flexibility. Kano, I don't think will leave it open because it's a spot on the roster. He can go back out. He's very good at finding loans, even if we can't hold on to them. So I'm sure post World Cup we'll see something. I talked with Ben S personally, and he and I are on the same wavelength. I think Matt Hughes would be a good get. He's one of New England's best strikers after Bazzini last season or 2 seasons ago, and not really doing a lot in his current setup, we could see a lot of value in getting a player like Matt Hughes onto the team. Eric N writes in, realistically, do we have a shot at the Prinx wild card spot? So I mean, Eric doesn't even believe we have a shot at the top spot in Group 5. We're talking wild card.
I mean, it's possible. It just requires that basically all the other second teams like do their worst.
I think there's 6 teams that have 6 points already. So 6 teams have to lose for us to take.
I think the only other team that has 5 is Pittsburgh. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like if all those other teams like draw 0-0 draws and then somehow lose in penalties to whoever they play, then it's possible. It's just it's really out of our hands, unfortunately. Brad K here says Fought Mob now has us rated as the 4th best team in the championship. Considering we are 9th in the standings, do you understand what underlying stat is driving this? Frustrating this team isn't in a higher position.
Yeah, so we talked about this because I also was like, hey, like this team should be higher up the table for what it is. And Jason had the better answer, but I didn't highlight this the right way, so I have to answer it now. Rhode Island, whether they're passing the success eyeball test of like the results and the points, they're doing everything else that the indicators would say are the right things to do. They lead, or at least are a top quartile team in things like possession, in passing sequence, in crossing, in shots, in goals. I mean, they're at 1.7 goals per game right now. We again scored 19 last season, so we were under 1 for the entirety of the season. They're doing a lot of the mechanical things correct. I think we're leading in tackles, defensive interceptions, and recovery. Like this team is good. It just doesn't end up working out in a way that gets us the favorable result or 3 points in certain conditions in certain matches. So holistically, this team is very good. And that's why when people say Kano out, I don't know what they're talking about, because this team just needs this one little thing, which I think, Jason, you would say might be just luck at that point. You can be really good and still lose a game. And I think that's what Rhode Island is seeing right now. And I think this team's only going to get better as some of these players that have been integrated in season are gelling more and more. I mean, we see the relationship between the midfield trio. We see the strikers and the wingers now getting better and better with their wingbacks and their new back four system. Like, this team continues to improve. I think that this team is a 4th place team, and that maybe if we can get the results our way, maybe there's a home playoff berth, but I think we're also getting further and further away from that. So in my heart and what the statistics say, we're a good team. Unfortunately, sometimes it just doesn't manifest in that thing we call luck.
Yeah, if we continue the way that we're going on, like we're definitely going to go on a late run like we have in the past.
Leo O writes in, we've seen both midseason loanees and permanent transfer players come in each season so far in this club's existence. Assuming this trend continues, where would you guys expect to see reinforcements brought in? And would you guys be hoping for either loanees like we had in Corcoran or permanent signings like Busy and Amity? So a little bit different than Matt, Jean, and Ben's questions. Do we want a loanee for this second half of the season, or do we want a permanent?
I would almost lean towards loanee, and the only reason being that maybe if it's something that doesn't have as many strings attached to it as like them being able to leave. But the problem is this team feels like Kano already has his decided 11, and you can maybe extend that to like 12, 13, or 14. But any player we're going to bring in is not going to be in a position to really like crack that starting 11 unless we find another Hamidi Diop who just is somehow a massive upgrade to a position that we didn't know we even needed.
Sorry, I'm Mavika.
Yeah. So in that regards, I mean, like, or why not even both? I mean, if we have the space, you bring in a loan for temporary to kind of get us through the dog days of summer, and then you bring in another kind of youth player who's like they're going to start to integrate in the second half of the season, and someone maybe for next year.
I mean, again, results don't show it, but I almost wonder, like, we haven't heard a lot of player contract extensions. We know the ones that are going to 26, 27, now even 28. I don't even know if there's a player that I would say Kano should be releasing at the end of the season, at least out of the starting 11. So unless there's a player that maybe potentially they would lose because he could get scouted to a better league or would want to activate some way of moving on, that's the only spot I would see. So yeah, you are looking for that secondary, tertiary role. To me, that's you're playing a lot better when you are playing with loanee money than versus a permanent transfer, because I just don't think we need another starting caliber player right now.
Yeah. Joe P here, good back on track game, or what I call a morale booster against Westchester. It was good to see Clay get back to his dominant form, and Noah showed flashes of his play in 2024. I know Kano looks at the defensive formation of sides before he decides to press or not. We will see if he uses it against Loudoun. We need the 3 points to keep pace before the break.
We need the
Well
3
said,
points
Joe.
for a lot of different
We absolutely
reasons.
do, yeah.
We need to beat Loudoun for the first time ever. We need to keep the pace before the break. And we need to be able to jump Loudoun and get further into the – well, we're not jumping them, but we need to get further into the – a win could put us back into playoffs for the first time in a long time this season. I don't even know if we were ever in the playoffs officially. Have we been over the line yet this season?
I don't think so. If it was like the first game of the season. Well,
no, because I don't think we've been.
How does the roster start when there's 0 matches played?
I think it's alphabetically, so we're still towards the bottom.
Oh man, okay.
Stacy L writes in, did you get to say happy birthday to Chip this weekend?
I did get a chance to run into him, so yeah, I did get that opportunity.
I have a video of him hugging Chip and doing a little twirl. So whether he remembers that or not, different story.
Bob D here says, were you surprised to see Koke Vegas and net on Saturday, given that Westchester has gone 1 year without scoring, winning a single game on the road? Wouldn't this have been the perfect game to see Castro or Meyer?
Yes. I mean, I'm not surprised because I think I'm the one, especially I remember the notes and then Jason and Torin were talking, oh, it's Torin. I was like, it's the Vegas show. I listen, especially after what Kano said, it sounds like Castro and Meyer won't find a way in unless Vegas gets hurt, and I'm going to knock on wood on that because we don't want to see that. I think this is the Vegas year, the year of the Vegas in the Chinese zodiac. So I just don't see it any other way, unfortunately. But it would have been a perfect game to see a player like Castro or Meyer in. Mike R, catching up on the pods, just finished the John Morrissey episode. You are behind, my friend. Who do you guys think are early contenders for RAFC player or defender of the year?
We're sticking to defenders. You got to throw Karifa's name in there. The
Sanchez.
Consistency.
Justice for Sanchez.
I was going to say Sanchez, but the problem is, like, if anything, I would put him more in the player of the year because he played on both sides of the ball. Right. And so
there's no one taking that away from JJ Williams this year or Georgia. It's one of those, like, you just not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you would put him in the the discussion then for defender as well too, especially because we haven't seen consistency from our other defenders yet this year. Not that they have been bad at all, but they've all kind of had off games where I can't say that about Sanchez or Karifa.
I think Nick Scardina also making a case, but he missed a early portion.
Yeah,
of the first quarter.
He didn't hit the ground running with us. He needed a few more weeks to gel. Rachel H saying, it feels like all we do is score a crazy amount of goals at home. Is it to say we're good at home?
I mean, I don't think this is a bad team. I did do the numbers. 21 goals in 10 games at Centerville Bank Stadium so far this year. So just that's 2.1 goals per game. And I'm counting 10 games because we have to count the Revs match that was away. We scored one in that. Jason, 21 goals. I will remind you, we scored 19 all season at home in Centerville Bank last season. I think we are a very good team at home this year, even if we have weird results like that Birmingham match or a draw against Tampa Bay. I think we're a very good team at home. And that's, again, why this isn't translating, that this table standing should be better than what it is. This question shouldn't even be asked, but I forgot that it was. Ben W., what's your favorite pregame sandwich that you've ever had?
Ever? Oh, man, that's tough. Is a burger a sandwich?
I mean, that's like asking, is ravioli a Pop-Tart, you know?
Yeah.
He wants to know if the Cuban he made you was the best sandwich or maybe he wants to ask me this.
He's asking you because I didn't have it.
Oh, then Ben, I don't remember. You're gonna have to make me another one, and then I will be able to report in. And that's the answer.
I mean, I'll take a Cuban. I remember the sliders he made the first game were fantastic.
Stop giving Ben credit he doesn't deserve. Thank you for feeding me, and thank you for everyone that feeds us at the pre-games. Joe, who else? Joe just comes first to mind. If I don't remember your name, yell at me in the DMs and we'll go from there.
Kyle K says, who's your dark horse for the World Cup?
So a couple episodes ago, I joked that it was France, and then someone, I think it was Sam Ladoff, was like, France is a good team. Like, yeah, it was called being facetious. So statistically, we talked about this yesterday. Japan, for some reason, is considered one of the best dark horses.
Everyone's been saying that, and I'm like, I guess I'm sleeping on Japan too. I haven't paid that much attention to them.
So if you're asking me for the future bets here, then apparently it's Japan. But my heart of heart tells me, and it's not even fair because to be a dark horse means you have to you have to be like questionable. And I think Morocco could have a really good run again, considering how well they did last time around. They've only gotten better. They're hosting the World Cup next year. Their federation has put a lot of resources into building their talent. So 4 years later, this will be the test of, are they getting better, or was that a fluke? Was that a flash in the pan? My money is on Morocco. I know you've got 2014 Belgium as your dark horse, as you should.
Yeah, they're running it back.
Did you see the Lukaku training video where he missed every single?
I mean, you could do that for any player, but it was also absolutely hilarious.
So yeah, there's your answer, Kyle. It's either Morocco, Japan, or Belgium. So just bet on one of the three, and you'll get a nice payout. Oh, Justin asking for, of course, this is what I knew. Justin in the chat going, I don't get a shout out for cooking. Of course you do. You're the cook. You're the cook supreme. Okay, my friend. Thank you for all you do, not just for Jason and I, but the entirety of Defiance 1636 at those parties. Love when you're manning the grill. Listen, this has been a fun show. Super long for us. Obviously, our radio partners are like, no, this is right on time. You missed a lot in the extended versions on YouTube and our podcast sites. Of course, don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, do all the things to help grow the channel and make sure that we remain the #1 sports source for all things Rhode Island FC for you guys and everyone else in the USL. We love you all. Anchors up. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us. Anchors up.
You've been listening to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. You can follow the show on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast and at Raising Anchor on Instagram. And be sure to check out and subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you listen by searching for Raising Anchor. Make sure to check out all of our coverage over at the Blazing Musket for all your New England soccer coverage, including RAFC news at theblazingmusket.com. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask you to be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the show. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm your main man, Juju, and on behalf of the Raising Anchor crew, goodbye for now. And as always, we are Rhode Island FC.